It's time to learn how to talk to people using some grammar. So let's remind ourselves of certain grammarly things. For example, pronouns. We know that pronouns replace nouns. So instead of saying, hey, John, or hey, Juan, we could say you, right? So you is replacing John in that scenario because we're talking to John. All right, so the pronouns in Spanish are very important, and these are the things that are going to be your foundation for your learning. So for I, we have yo, yo. Now, depending on where you're learning or where you're speaking or the person to whom you're speaking is from, that word yo, that very simple word, can sound very different. Mexico and Spain, you're going to hear yo. In Central America, you're going to hear yo. In Colombia, you're going to hear yo. In Argentina, you're going to hear sho. It's all the same word. Okay? So, yo, you is tú. We also have you for the word in Central America and Rio Platense is vos. Then we have the formal version of you, which is usted. Then there is he, él, she, ella, we, nosotros. If it's a group of all ladies saying we are blah, 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 we're going to the spa, it would be nosotras. Then there's you all. And there are two different ways of saying you plural or you all, or in Texas, y'all. And that is ustedes, which is actually quite formal. Therefore, you're not going to hear it with frequency in Spain. And then there's vosotros, which also means you all. They mean exactly the same thing, but vosotros is informal and ustedes is formal. Now in Latin America, everyone uses ustedes. In Spain, everyone uses vosotros. If it's a group of ladies, if a person's talking to a group of ladies, it would be vosotras. The thing is that Spain had the opportunity to speak informally to everyone. And in Latin America, because they were colonized, they had to speak more formally. So the reality is that that was ingrained and that lasted and that still persists. So you will only hear ustedes in Latin America. Vosotros is important to know if you are a person who likes to travel across the pond. Anytime you're going across the Atlantic, you are going to hear vosotros, and ustedes immediately places you as a person who is not from Europe. So, again, vosotros and ustedes both mean you all, plural. And then ellos means they, and ellas means they as well, but we're talking about now a group of ladies. Notice that we differentiate based on gender. Okay, now you'll be receiving lessons that talk more about this. But you need to know that we're going to be using the term conjugation a lot. And conjugation just simply means that you are changing the verb form to include to address who or what you're speaking about or to. So for example, we don't just say walk to the store. We have to conjugate the verb walk, and we have to say he walks to the store. So that's the action of conjugation. Now, what you're going to learn is that depending on who you're speaking to and how many people you're speaking to or about, that's going to change the conjugation. So, for example, there is a difference between I walk, you walk, and he walks, right? We have to add that S onto walks. Well, in Spanish, you're going to change whenever you change the pronoun. So for example, I walk is yo camino. You walk is tú caminas. He walks is él camina. The verb is always going to reflect the person we're talking about or the person we're talking to. The only time we have to use a name is if we are talking in third person. If I am talking about Jim, then I have to use Jim's name. Jim camina. Sounds weird. We'll use Juan instead. Juan camina. I don't have to use that with camino or caminas or caminamos or camináis because those other words can only mean one thing. They can only mean I walk, you walk, we walk, you all walk. But with camina, there are so many different options as to whom we could be speaking about. We have to add the name. So we would have to say Juan camina, Juan y Maria caminan, because we could be talking about a dog walking. The verb is not going to determine the difference between Jim doing the walking or a dog doing the walking. We have to use the name. But you could just say, camino al mercado. I walk to the market, and you're just fine. Or you could say, yo camino al mercado. You could do that too. So you have some options when you're using first and second person. But when you're using third person, you have to always use the name so we know who we're talking about. And that goes for singular and plural. You'll also notice that there are differences based on the singular use of the verb and the plural use of the verb. And those differences will make or break you. I'll be sending your lesson on that so that you know what to use when, and depending on the person with whom or about whom you're speaking, so that you can learn the pattern involved in using the correct verb form. Ciao.